Yeah, I wanted to talk about Versusia, just because, I mean, there's a lot of different characters who people, the streamer OS, yeah. There's a lot of different characters that people might consider, like, top tier, or potentially, in discussion for best character in the game, or at least, up there in that general framework. And I think a lot of them are pretty obvious, right? Like, I think it's pretty clear, and also it's been very consistent as to why a character like Beatrix is really good, or why a character like Catalina might be very good, or, even Belial, if you still think he's up there. We've already talked about how, why I don't think Belial got nerfed that hard, right? A lot of the characters are relatively straightforward. Grimnir, not so much, but Grimnir has also had, I think, quite a lot of ink spilled on him at this point. He's been a talking point since the game came out, basically. Like, at first people thought he wasn't super good, and then, people discovered tech and also just learned more about what the character could do, and he sort of climbed steadily up the lists and was the patches were pretty nice to him. So, Versusia, I feel like, is one of the characters where, a lot of people, she was more divisive previously, right? And I myself, my opinion on Versusia has shifted significantly. One, from just like a realization that I had, and then also, honestly, I think the patch was very good for her as well, the Season 2 patch, right? But I feel like I do get some people in the chat every now and again talking about, like, Versusia feels kind of bad, like, why is Versusia so good? Like, why exactly is she top tier? It feels like she's maybe one of the lesser understood characters. It turns out she's very simple. This is not going to be a very long video, I don't think. I do have a habit of over-yapping. But I just wanted to kind of go over kind of what makes Versusia so special, and even for those of you who already, like, know what about it is, I want to sort of put into perspective just how strong some of the things Versusia does is, right? Because, like, yeah, like, Ophidian's saying she's got good hit conversions, she's got corner-to-corner carry, she's got good mid-screen damage. These are all true, but even, like, saying it like that is kind of downplayed, right? I think I need to sort of, I want to go over and just realize that, like, Versusia does not have, like, good conversions. Versusia has the highest mid-screen damage in the game, right? Versusia does not have, like good corner carry. She has essentially, I mean, not the best corner carry in the game, but, like, she's tied with all the people who would have the best corner carry in the game, right? She's not, like, gapping anyone there or anything like that, but, like, Versusia does, like, I want to sort of emphasize to people just how strong the strengths of this character are. So we're going to talk about this in sort of two sections here, I think, because there are primarily, I guess, like, 3.5. Is she still considered just top 5? People say she's top 2 now. It depends on who you ask. Everyone at this point, I think, who is paying attention is pretty aware that she's really good. I haven't seen anything lower than top 5. Some people will tell you she's top 2. Some people will say that they think she's the best character in the game, right? But she's pretty well agreed upon now to be quite strong. Tomato, yeah, it's not really, at the end of the day, if someone says top 2 or top 5, they're both agreeing the character is incredibly strong. It really is just splitting ball hairs at that point, right? So, I want to talk about this in sort of 3.5 kind of sections. 1, I want to talk about her normals. 2, I want to talk about her damage. At 3, I want to talk about just, like, miscellaneous stuff that also makes her pretty good. And then at 3.5, I want to talk about, potential weaknesses this character might have, and why, in the grand scheme of things, they don't actually come out to be too material and making her, like, worse than she possibly could be, right? So, I want to talk about normals and damage first, just because, again, if you really, I like viewing fighting games essentially as protracted risk-reward simulators, right? Like, obviously, there's a lot of player skill involved in, like, picking the right options, understanding the situation that you're in, rotating it so your opponent is more likely to make mistakes, all of this. But at the end of the day, right, different situations have a certain risk, a certain reward, right? Like, what happens if I'm wrong? What happens if I'm right? Like, how bad or good is that for me? And what are the likelihoods of each of those things happening, right? So, if in general, situations are relatively low risk and high reward for you, right? Even, or, sometimes it's very low risk, very high reward, or even some of the more negative situations can be relatively moderate risk and still pretty high reward. That character is going to end up being pretty good, right? And Versusia, I think, exemplifies this in 2 ways. First, normals, right? Let's talk about her normals. Versusia, I think there was a little bit of, I'm not going to say downplay, but just, like, her normals kind of went under the radar a tiny bit. Everyone at this point is very aware, but just because it wasn't quite as insane as just how much she blew you up when she got the hit, right? But Versusia has, she is very much in contention for the best suite of normals in the entire game, alongside probably characters like Catalina. Belial used to, I honestly probably would have given the title to Belial before the patch. His best one did get hit in a way that matters. So maybe it's not anymore. But Versusia really is in contention. Let's talk about it, right? First off, and maybe foremost, this fucking thing, right? 5L. Versusia's 5L. I want to bring up Lancelot, because this is actually, Lancelot is a character that I'm currently helping one of my friends. He's trying to learn the game and he's playing Lancelot. And I want to just note something in case you didn't know. Versusia does not have a close L, right? From up close, from further away, she has a 5L, right? She doesn't have a proximity normal. Obviously most characters, close M, far M, right? She only has a far L, a quote-unquote, a 5L, basically, right? It doesn't change. Now, normally, this is a bad thing. There are two other characters who don't have a close L, right? And in their case, kind of feels more like they don't have a far L, right? Lancelot doesn't have one, and Narmaya doesn't have one, right? In her Genji stance. And trust, these characters really, really wish they had, because they really wish they had like a close L or a far L. Like they wish they had that split, right? Because essentially, Lancelot's 5L, for example, is the size of a close L. What mod is that? It's showing the hurt boxes, also has the first time caught you live. What's going on, Azor? This is the frame meter mod by Agersant. If someone trustworthy wants to link that for them, it's an amazing mod. It gives you the frame meter. It gives you can see hitboxes. You can switch which hitboxes you see. You can like pause the game and go frame by frame. It's really good. Yeah, Ophidion's trustworthy. Ophidion's not gonna link you a Trojan horse. You can click on it. Don't worry. I promise you, I'm not scamming you. But yeah, so Lancelot, he basically has the range of a close L and the plus frames of a far L. You'll notice his far L is only +2 on block, right? Where close L's normally are +4, right? I would absolutely link you as a bomb. Yeah, don't trust Azure. She'll fuck you over. But point being. In the case of Narmaya and Lancelot, it is a bad thing. In the case of Versusia, it is a very, very good thing. This is just one of the craziest buttons in the entire game for multiple reasons. One, you may notice it's gigantic, right? Like, this is definitely far L size. This is a big far L even, right? It's a pretty good far L. So this is a far L that is +3 on block instead of +2 on block. Still less plus than a close L, right? We'll give it up, but it's more plus than your average far L. Most far Ls are like +2. And most notably, it is a medium. It crushes other lights. If I have Lancelot stick out his little guy right here, you see crush right there? This is a medium as far as the game is concerned for how normal clashing works. So this isn't a +3 far L that is 7 frames. No. This is a plus on block far M. Right? It's a little smaller than most far Ms, if you think of it that way then, right? At that point it becomes like, even Lancelot, who has relatively stubby buttons, right? His far M is like more so equivalent in distance, right? And he's a stubby boy. But like, this button is just patently absurd, right? And the other thing, obviously, is that this, when besides being plus on block, this is her auto combo starter, obviously, right? Like this links into all of her crazy shit that she can do. But we'll talk about that in a second. So that's one, right? Let's not spend too much time. Up next, her 2-2L. Her 2L, her crouching light, also ridiculous, right? Let me compare something for you right here real quick. Again, let's not pick Lancelot, because Lancelot has some, disadvantages that are, born of him being a rushdown character and stuff like that. Let's look at Mr. Granathan, who I think is honestly quite a good character, right? Granathan's 2L is, it's a decent size, right? It's a low, it's 6 frames, and it's -2 on block, right? Versusia's 2L is a little slower, right? I think. Oh, no, it's also 6. My bad. I thought it was 7. Of course, no. Yeah, this is her 6 frame. Yes. It's 6 frames. It's about the same size as Grant's. Maybe honestly, it might be very, very slightly tinier, right? So so far so good. Except it's +3 on block, right? Do you notice that? Do you notice that button is +3 on block? Grant -2 2L, right? Let's pick literally any random character out of a hat, right? Soris. Similar idea, pretty. Oh, he's naked. Don't mind that. But -2 on block. Again, pretty big. Again, this one, his Soris 2L, by the way, is a very good button, right? It's really big. This is bigger than Versusia's, I think. -2, right? Belial has an absurd 2L. It's 5 frames and it's huge, right? -4, right? Beelzebub, pull literally any character. To my understanding, this is the only plus on block 2L in the entire game. And it doesn't, sometimes, characters, Sora's is a great example of this. Sora's has a plus on block close H. Whoa, that's really good. It's 10 frames, right? It's +1 and it's 10 frames. For being plus on block, he pays a pretty hefty price, right? A lot of close L's are like 8 frames, 9 frames, stuff like that. His close L is 10 frames, but, in exchange, he gets to be +1 on block. Versusia's 2L, notably, doesn't really pay in any sort of way for being plus, right? She's +3 on block. It's pretty big. It's not like the world's biggest 2L or anything like that, but it's pretty big. It's big enough. It's smaller, for example, than Sora's. It's decently large, right? And it's +3 on block, and it's 6 frames. And that's not where that button ends, actually. That's not where the crazy stuff about that button ends. So, notably, let's take a look at Sora's, let me not put counter hit on. Let's take a look at Sora's 2L. Again, good. Sora's has a good 2L. He's got a solid 2L. Can I find it on Game Banana? Oh, Maury, you can find it on GitHub. If you look up Agerson's GBVSR frame meter, you'll find it. Well, let's Sora's again. Sora's is a good 2L. We're not comparing to a bad 2L here, right? Sora is 2L, plus 2 on block, right? If you're really close, 2Ls in this game, characters can cancel their, plus 2 on hit. Characters can cancel their 2L into their close L, right? So if you're really close, you go 2L, right? You start your auto combo, you do your Sora's nonsense, whatever you want to do, right? Versusia, notably, cannot do this. Her 2L does not cancel into her 5L, right? However, Sora's, again, remember, plus 2 on hit for Sora's is 2L. Plus 7. Plus 7 on hits for Versusia's 2L. So, you might think that it's a weakness. The thing that she pays for this button is that she can't get conversions off of it the way that other characters can, right? Characters can, if they hit you really up close with a 2L, has to be really close, right? Like even from here, you're getting far L, right? If they hit you really up close with a 2L, they can get auto combo, they can get like a conversion, right? You might think Versusia, that'd be the thing that her button pays for. No, it's plus 7. And you might remember that her 5L is 7 frames. So you can't cancel them, but you can just link them. And because of the fact that she doesn't have a far L, actually, in actuality, she can combo off her 2L from further distances than most characters can, right? Like if Sora hits you with a 2L from here, he's getting far L, right? If Versusia hits you with a 2L from there, she's getting 5L into auto combo, right? Which obviously, again, auto combo starters are the best starters for all characters. Ignore damage. Sora has 50% damage reduction right now. That's why it's doing so little. But in actuality, this 2L, not only does it not pay the price of being worse at converting, this is the best 2L at converting into like big damage in the entire video game, right? As it turns out. So there's a lot of buttons Versusia has that are pretty good. For a while, I was thinking that maybe Belial had the best 2L in the game. This is just the best 2L in the game, right? It's the same speed as all of them. It's still a low, I believe. Is it not a low? I think it's a low. Yeah, it's a low. So it's a low. It is plus on block instead of minus on block. The only plus on block 2L in the game. It's not, if it has any weakness, it is not the world's biggest 2L, but it's not a small 2L either. And this is the best 2L converting in the entire game. So, okay. 5L, this is one of the best 5Ls in the entire game. One of, maybe the best. This is the best 2L in the entire game. Almost bar none, really. Let's talk about her mediums, right? We can talk about her mediums. Her far M, I want to get Abel on screen here, because I think, again, I'm comparing two characters that have strong versions of these buttons. Abel has a pretty good far H, right? It's not far H, right? It's 9 frames, which is quite fast, and it's quite big, right? It's quite big, all things considered, considering how fast it is, right? I would like you to note, let me just creep ever so close to Mrs. Suja here. That looks about right. I believe, I know I tested this earlier and it couldn't work, but we'll see if I can get the timing on it. There are ranges. Yes, that whiffs right there. That whiffs right there. Let me move ever so slightly closer. Yeah, that still whiffs. Okay, now I believe this whiffs. Whoa. That whiffs, and this hits. His far M does advance a little bit, but trust me. Like, I did fuck up doing the far M right there. But the point being is that Versusia's far M is bigger than Abel's far H. Now, it's 9 frames. Sure, that's kind of slow for a far M. But this thing is absolutely gigantic. And this is like one of her more mid buttons, honestly. This thing is a huge button. And it's 9 frames, sure. But, like, it's gigantic, right? This is, like, this far M, again, think everything kind of goes one step up on her, right? This far M is more like a far H. Now, this does not actually share far H attack level. But it's quite something, right? Her 2M is just Siegfried 2M. 8 frames, no, it doesn't even pay in like, startup or anything like that. This is just Siegfried 2M. I believe it has a little bit more recovery than Siegfried 2M. So like, if, if she does whiff, you can kind of hurt her a little bit more. Nope, it's literally almost a carbon copy of the move. Gotcha. No, it is the exact same move, right? If anything, it might be ever so slightly bigger. I'm not actually sure. It looks, yeah, I think it's actually, it might be a tiny bit bigger than Siegfried's 2M, actually. Yeah. It actually looks like, because I think we're gonna start like this is. Oh fuck! I can very easily find a range where Siegfried's 2M like that is. Oh, that's barely hitting. It's a little finicky, so you'll have to forgive me, but maybe they look like maybe they're about almost the same size, right? Point being, Siegfried's 2M. One of the best buttons in the game, right? Again, I'm not trying, like, I'm really trying to steel man this, right? I'm not being like, oh, she's got a better 2M than, I don't know, fucking Narmaya's Kagura stance or something. Oh, it's so broken. No, this is maybe the best, this is like in contention for best 2M in the video game, is Siegfried's, and she just has the exact same one, right? While also having maybe the best 5L in the game, definitely the best 2L in the game, a damn good far M, and her far H is 10 frames. For being just absolutely gigantic and having this whiff cancel and just leading to your absolute death on counter hits, only 10 frames, right? So all of her buttons across the board, her 2H is kind of mid, right? Her 2H actually is quite bad. Her 2H is 13 frames, right? So that is 2 frames slower than normal, right? But like, all of her buttons are just kind of fucking nuts, right? Her jumping buttons, right? Her JU is a really nasty cross-up button, right? Her JM is a really solid air-to-air. Her JH is a pretty damn good jumping button, right? She's got it active all the way to the ground JL, so like pretty standard stuff, right? The weakness here, potentially, is you could argue her 6XL is not great if she does it immediately like this, right? Wait, what? Is that real? Okay, I thought her 6XL was always +3, no. So her 6XL is not great if you just do it right away like this, right? In terms of just doing a quick lunge like this, she really cannot, like, compete with, like, Siegfried doing that, right? Like, hitting dash and immediate L. Her 6XL really does go nowhere, right? Now, of course, the... who also has a slower 2H than the average cast? Charlotta, I think, and also Vasaraga. I think that might be it. I think everyone else has 11 frames. I might be forgetting someone. But yeah, so the reason, that her 6L is so, so short is because she can do this, right? She can just become the fastest character in the game once her dash actually gets started, and then at that point, her 6XL is, like, sliding really quite far, right? But yeah, point being, so all of Versusia's buttons are really just, I want to really emphasize this with this whole video. These buttons are not good. They are amazing, right? Like, this is not a strong, this is an amazing 5L. This is the best 2L in the video game. This is one of the best, this is up there for best 2M in the video game, right? Her far M is maybe just great, right? Maybe it's only great and not amazing, right? But, like, and her far H is great and not amazing, perhaps, right? But, like, these three buttons are amazing, all, like, best in slot, essentially. Now, let's get on to the other half of it, right? So we just why does it, like, it's sort of a conceptual matter. Why are buttons being good a good thing? I know it sounds like a stupid question, but let's try and think about from first principles here, right? If your buttons are good, in a very simple manner, it increases the likelihood that you win neutral, that you find hits on defense, that you are able to poke someone out and whiff punish them, right? That you are able to get good pressure. Like, it lowers the risk or increases the chance for you to get your rewards, right? Again, think of it from that risk-reward calculation perspective, right? It makes it so that the risk of her button whiffing and her dying, right, is lower, and the risk of her actually hitting you with the button or getting pressure to them able to hit you is higher, right? So on the risk-reward front, having just strong buttons like this in terms of range and frame data and stuff like that, it makes the risk lower and the chance of it makes your risk higher, right? Now, let's get on to the second part of that equation, rewards. And this is where Versusia is top one. Versusia is straight up top one. She had competition in Catalina before the patch, right? But excluding, I think, literally only Blade level 5 Lucilius, or Nier if she's willing to dump some meter, right? But we're talking about meter dumping for Versusia here too. Excluding Nier and Blade level 5 Lucilius, no one does it like Versusia in terms of mid-screen damage, right? Let's look at, let me compare to Gran. Gran is a character with good mid-screen. Now, not the best mid-screen, right? I'm not comparing literally the best mid-screen, but Gran hits pretty fucking hard if you spend some meter in this patch, right? Let's compare to Gran. So, Versusia, actually, let's do. I'm gonna do this off a 2L starter because I need you to realize this is something that Versusia does like better than almost any character, and 2L is a very common thing to get like a random counter hit on when you're defending, right? Just because like when you delay tech, you'll stick out like a random 2L, right? And it might catch your opponent on their way in. It might catch their gap if they're trying to throw you, if you're fuzzy mashing it or something like that. Like getting some random 2L like this is very common. Happens dozens of times per like day you play ranked on Grand Blue or something, right? So Gran has to do it from closer than Versusia. Keep in mind, it's also her faster button. Yeah, in her case, it's also her faster button, yes. But even Gran was a 5-frame close L, right? He's not usually going to be mashing his close L. He's going to be mashing his 2L, right? It's because you're down backing. It's the safest thing to do. So Gran, to get this conversion, Gran has to be closer than Versusia. Now keep in mind, I'm not sure if this is the optimal for Gran. I'm also not sure that what I'm going to do is the optimal for Versusia. I don't play either of these characters, right? But Gran can do something like this if he's willing to spend some meter, right? You can do something like this. I'm gonna spend 100 on Versusia too, so don't you worry, right? But Gran can do. You can link the DP, I think, without the close H there. But yeah, we can kind of see what that looked like, right? It was decent carry, right? It was decent corner carry, and he got like 4k damage out of it. You can do this for like a little bit of better Oki, and it's very similar damage, right? So he basically sends you from corner to corner if he's willing to spend all that meter, right? And he sends you all that way, and he gets some Oki off of it, and it's about 4.7k. We saw right there, right? Again, this is not off a good start. It's a 2L starter, right? So that's very good by Gran, actually. Like like a lot of characters get 2L into like nothing, right? So quite nice, quite nice. Versusia can do this, and from further away, she can do this. If she has stock up, she can do this, right? Bonk, and again, this might not even this is probably not even the best thing she can do here, right? But she can do something like this, basically. Right? And then we get a launch, and then we catch him like that, and then we do this. And again, it may even be that you can do something even better than that, right? But that's 7.2k. Now, again, Grand's mid-screen is good. It's quite good. Grand does a lot of damage, right? After ult ball, walk up 5L instead of 6XL? Yeah. So, that, again, that very well may not even be optimal. That may not, like, I'm sure she can do better than that. That's 7.2k, better corner carry, and a full actual corner combo that got started right there. As a result, better Oki off that as well at the end, right? Now, let me take this one step further. Let me compare that to Avatar Belial on a close M starter, right? This is the character who pays health. He pays his own health, right? He pays his own health to get better damage, right? Just do 5U into 2, 3, 6U. Yeah, again, there might be better things you can do. I honestly don't know. But, like, that's just a combo that I just found just, like, testing it for, like, 5-10 minutes, right? Let me turn the HP recovery off on Mr. Able here. This is a character who pays his health for his damage, and we're going to get him a much better starter. We'll go close M, right? So it's less scaled, right? Now, again, granted, this is going to be a meterless combo from Avatar, right? It's going to be a meterless combo that he can do right here. But, like, to call it resourceless, I think is a little bit disingenuous, considering that, you know, he is going to be, like, this is really, it's him spending a shit ton of health on this, right? Corner to corner, Oki, same idea, 5.7k, right? Now, let's get, so, Versusia had her stock up. That was not her, that was her optimal starter, right? What's going on, Spartan? Let's give Abel his optimal situation, right? Without spending meter, to be fair, but again, we're talking about comparing it spending like health, right? Let's do fucking this on Abel, right? Counter hit 6/6H starter. This is like so many levels above how good Versusia starter was for her in terms of it just being, you know, a 2L versus counter hit 6/6H, right? And now we get all of this, right? You can end this combo in better ways, certainly, for Abel, right? That's 7.79. Now, again, Abel can do much more than that if he wants to dump SSBA. But, I mean, I think it's a fair comparison if you look at his health bar. That combo did almost as much damage to him as it did to Versusia, right? He spent like 6k HP doing that fucking shit, right? And that's 7.79k. A similar amount of damage off counter hit 6/6H, just like his actual best starter. A similar amount of damage to Versusia doing this. 2L into 5L, right? So again, Versusia's mid-screen is not good. It's not great. It is the best, right? She is the strongest. There is no one else who really even compares. The only person who was even somewhere, in the same realm, right, was pre-patch Catalina, who could do a little better if you're talking about just 50 meter, not 100 meter, right? Now again, to be fair, that was Versusia's best situation. Even if we take stock away from her, right? Even if we take the stock away from her, she can do something kind of similar, right? Like, you can do something kind of similar with no stock. Now, a lot worse, granted, right? Oh, I did fuck that up. A lot worse, but, like, it's still, off a 2L, it's still very good confers, right? Bonk, right? And then walk up, and you can do all of this, right? Now, that's a lot worse, right? That's a lot worse. That's 4k. You don't quite get the corner there. But, again, that was Grand's damage, right? That was Grand's mid-screen combo with 100 meter, right? And the stock, by the way, is not super hard for her to come by. We'll talk about that in a second. But, like, Versusia having stock is not exactly something that's like, oh, it's an unrealistic situation. And if you've played against her for any amount of time, you know that to be the case, right? I mean, and if she has stock and only wants to spend 50 meter, you can do very similar sort of, like, goofy shit, right? We can do very, very similar, like, kind of, like, pretty nasty stuff to you, right? All the way corner to corner, 4,600 damage, right? Very good damage for what is not her best case situation. This is, like, a bad combo because you didn't have all the resources you wanted to have, right? And there's no SSBA involved here, there's no Raging Strikes, it's just how it is, right? So, Versusia's mid-screen is the best in the game, right? And by the way, she can, if you're not, like, literally back to the wall, right? If you're a tiny step away from back to the wall, right? Then you just actually get this on 50 meter. You get, like, the full nuts, right? If I remember correctly, right? Yeah. Then you just fully get this with only 50 meter, right? You don't even need, like, you only need 100 meter if you are literally back to the wall, right? If you're out here, suddenly she only needs 50, right? So, again, Versusia does not have good buttons. She has, honestly, probably the best buttons in the game. Competing with Catalina, competing with maybe Belial, maybe not quite so much anymore, but he's up there too. I'm alright finally the B ranks with my main, so all I'm gonna do is improve. Awesome, man. Awesome. Congrats. Right? She has maybe the best buttons in the game. Versusia does not have good mid-screen. She has the best mid-screen in the game. That one's not a maybe, right? At this point, with Catalina being nerfed, Versusia has the best mid-screen in the game. The only character that can even, like, consider competing, honestly, is probably, like, a Nier, right? But Nier needs, you know, like, Nier really only, she doesn't get the carry, she gets the damage, right? Which you can argue Nier doesn't need the corner, but, like, in terms of damage, at least, Nier can compete with Versusia off, like, off her best combos and stuff like that, right? So she has the best mid-screen in the game. She has some of the best buttons in the game, right? So again, we talk about risk-reward. Her risk, in terms of, like, you know, like, her buttons are very good. So your risk, just interacting with this lady in general, is quite high. Her risk is on the lower end because her buttons are so good. So again, the likelihood of you being able to beat her out, or, like, whiff punish her, or, like, stop her buttons, or, like, counter her buttons, or kill her for using them in some way is lower. And the odds of the exact same thing happening to you is higher. And her reward off that is best in the game. That by itself, by the way, we could stop the video here, right? Now, I've been talking for 27 minutes, so maybe we should stop the video here. But just there, right? That already does a top tier make. Now, we have to talk about something that I think gets a little overlooked quite often when talking about character strengths, unless we're literally talking about, like, this guy, right? Like, this is the only person where, like, this comes up, or maybe, like, Seox, right? This is the only person where this comes up very often, I feel like, in just classic layman discussion. Versusia has 17,000 health, right? We talk about risk-reward. Versusia, inherently, every situation is just that little bit better for her. Just that, like, 9-10% better for her than it is for an average health character, right? 17,000 health is not like it's, like, nice. No, it's really good. Having that extra 1,000 health just means that, essentially, everything you do is, like, 9-10% worse, right? Now, I want to show you what 9-10% worse looks like, right? I want to give you, again, I'm trying to contextualize things for people here, just so that it's very clear, right? I believe this is, we're looking for, yeah. Okay, so I want to contextualize what 9 to 10% worse looks like, right? And again, this is a little bit more, right? It's a little bit more. But do you remember Beatrix's emergency patch that she got in 1.42, right? Now, this is certainly more than that, right? But Beatrix's emergency patch, essentially, right? This is like a 20% reduction. This is like a 15% reduction, things like this. Beatrix's emergency patch that took her damage down from absolutely ridiculous on average to high damage, right? You can kind of think of it as Beatrix was hitting everyone like they were like a 14,000 health character before. If she was hitting Gran, you know, Gran was essentially a 14,000 health character compared to new Beatrix, where Gran is like a 16,000 health character, right? Because Beatrix's damage kind of went down by about 15% across the board, right? Now, this was a very sizable nerf to Beatrix. She's still quite good, right? She's still very, and again, if you asked me right now, gun to my head, who the best character in the game is, I would say probably Beatrix or Grimnir. But she's still very good. But this was a very sizable nerf to her, right? And again, you can kind of think of it as her damage went down across the board. This is 20%, this is like 10, 13%-ish. It went down by about 15% across the board, right? Imagine if you are any character hitting Versusia compared to hitting a character like Gran, you are experiencing a smaller but similar nerf across the board to all of your damage. Like, imagine you're just playing, like, you know, you're playing some fucking character. You're playing Belial, right? You're playing this broken ass boy, right? Imagine if a patch came out and it just said that, you know, Belial's damage was reduced from 1,000 to 900 on everything in his, like, you know, this was reduced from like 1,100 to 950. This was reduced from, you know, 1,300 to like 1,150. This was reduced from 2,000 to 2,400 here to, like, you know, 2,150 or something like that, right? That is basically what is happening if you ever hit a character with 17,000 HP, right? And this is, by the way, this is also why, like, for example, Ladiva and Vasaraga having 18k matters a lot, because realistically, genuinely for them, everyone's experiencing this nerf for their character at all times, right? Imagine if your character got this Beatrix emergency patch with all these damage reductions. That's what it's like hitting Ladiva or hitting Vasaraga, right? So she's not quite as bad as them in terms of the health, but it is really not a mild thing at all. I promise you that she has 1,000 extra HP, right? When we already talk about how her risk is so low, her reward is so high, you also, this lowers your risk, or sorry, this lowers her risk and lowers your reward, right? It's really just an insane thing for this character to have, while also having all, because, you know, other characters that have a lot of extra health, right? For example, Ladiva, Vasaraga, right? They have extra health. They usually pay for it in being, like, really slow, or having, like their risk goes up to compensate, right? Or having, like, very inherently risky parts of their game plan, like relying around command grabs and stuff like that. There are other characters, by the way, who have extra health and don't really suffer for it that much, and those guys are also really good, right? Sora's Also, really good. And again, doesn't really pay that much for having the 17k health. But I mean, at the very least, you could say, like, me doesn't have a fireball, you know, he's pretty slow outside of install, just like Versusia, whatever. Doesn't pay for it that much. Siegfried doesn't really pay for it. Siegfried's slow, but again, he has ways to work around it, right? It's kind of the same thing that Versusia has. Versusia is relatively slow, right? Her walk speed and her dash speed until she revs up and stuff, relatively slow, but they can all work around it. So that's one thing. 17,000 health is, again, I know I'm like really going very deep on all of this, but I just want to contextualize again that this is not a kind of good thing. This is very strong, right? This is very, very strong for her. Also, on top of all of this, Versusia is not a zoner, right? I think that is a bit of a mischaracterization of her, right? But Versusia does have, kind of like Cagliostro is not a zoner, right? But Versusia does have a relatively competent, like, fireball keep out kit, right? What she actually is she's a mid-range space control character, right? And her fireballs, like Anitia, for example, is certainly much better over here in like the mid-range than it is all the way over here. It doesn't really do much from full screen, right? So she is a mid-range character, right? But she also does have just like one of the best projectiles in the entire game in her H fireball, right? This is a tracking, unreactable, plus on block, gives you your stock for free if it ever hits, right? Move that she just has it, right? This is straight up one of the best projectiles in the entire game, right? Most projectiles do not get the benefit of being unreactable, right? That's not a thing. Like, even the really good ones, right? Like, even really good fireballs, usually you can see them coming, right? Usually you can see them coming, right? This is unreactable and plus on block. And if she ever hits you, she gets her win condition immediately, right? If she ever hits you, right, it gets the knockdown. She can either choose to get Oki if she wants, or bonk, right? And she's in no rush to get Oki because, again, this is like, she has decent control of this screen space. She's not a rushdown character, right? She doesn't have to, you could argue, right, for a weakness of her, that it's like, she has like the Jamie from Street Fighter 6 problem, or even like the Sandalphon problem to an extent, maybe, but Sandalphon's is much less hurtful than Jamie's, right? But like, you know, if she gets that knockdown with Pillar, does she have to choose between getting 5U or going for Okizemi? I mean, not really, because she doesn't need to be right here to be winning, right? Against most of the cast, Versusia is just totally fine just staying here, right? She can use her crazy dash to get to close distance if she wants, or again, she can use her best in the game buttons to just find the hit later after she gets the 5U anyways, right? And again, the knockdown that she scored here is not like a knockdown that most characters can even get, right? So on top of having the best buttons in the game, maybe, having the best mid-screen in the game, definitely, and having above average HP, she also just has like a surprisingly competent fireball kit on this character, right? So yeah, right? She like, it's kind of nuts. Now let's be fair. Let's talk about weaknesses because he does have them, right? It's not like she just doesn't like this character is perfect, something like that. She is slow, right? She is slow. That is not. People say this for Siegfried too. It's like, oh, he's slow. It's balanced, guys. He's slow. No, it is a big deal in a game where everyone is running around 6-6-selling and everyone's got neutral skips and everyone's like just like it's a very especially, you know, post Brave counter nerf, everything like that, right? Being slow is genuinely a problem. Now, it's mitigated by the fact that she's slow, but she doesn't have to get in, right? For example, being slow is a much bigger problem for Ladiva than it is for Versusia. Let me talk about my own character for a second here. Ladiva is quite slow. Not as slow as Versusia, maybe? I mean, by the time Versusia's dash gets going, probably is a little bit slower than Versusia even, right? But it's a much bigger problem for Ladiva because Ladiva doesn't do anything from over here. She doesn't do anything from over here. She really needs to be like here before she gets to do her like really crazy shit, right? Versusia, simply not the case, right? Versusia, again, we talked about maybe best projectile in the game, or not really, but up there, right? Up there in the discussion, right? And she's got these amazing like mid-range screen control buttons and keep out buttons, and this other fireball here too, and this pretty good anti-air like jumping stopping move, right? So while she is slow, it's mitigated, one, by just her good toolkit regardless to control the space without, you know, having to play too much footsies, and also the fact that she doesn't need to be in your face to be in a really good spot, right? Versusia's ideal distance is like here, which is very hard to keep her out of on footsies alone because her buttons are just better than yours, right? So it is a weakness. It does matter, right? But it really is mitigated quite heavily by just the character that she is, the game plan that she is, and her win condition, right? In fact, you are sort of, in some ways, it's kind of on you as most characters. 2M is also an IC. I mean, maybe best 2M in the game, right? Tied with Siegfried. But it is kind of on you in most matchups. You have to get in on her because if you don't, she just presses this button, right? And we just saw, I mean, her having 5U up makes like everything about her so much better when it's already pretty good, right? So again, her being slow doesn't really matter that much against a large portion of the cast at the very least, right? So Right? Another potential thing you could cite is that her dash is, it's good and bad, right? Once it gets this startup, once she breaks the sonic boom, she's like one of the fastest characters in the whole game. But this is quite a lot of startup on this dash, right? This, again, you could argue this as something that's like it's not great for her, certainly. Now, again, honestly, I don't know, like, for example, some characters might still just trade their they might just trade their dash to have hers, honestly, right? Like, a lot of characters would probably rather have their dash look like this. I know, for example, Ladiva would fucking kill for this dash, right? But, like, there are times, for example, you know, on defense, where it makes it so that if she, like, instantly 6XLs like this, she does have, like, the second worst 6XL in the game, if you just tap it like this, right? Even Ladiva's, right, goes notably further than hers, right? It really is, like, only Vasaraga that has a worse instant 6XL than that. Which, again, matters, right? It matters, because if she wants to try and gap close, instant 6XLs like that are at this sort of mid-range, right? A lot of characters, they can't necessarily compete with, like, her buttons, but characters can do this, right? So it does mean that characters, like, they have burst options in that mid-range if she's trying to hold. They have burst options that are, like, better than hers in some ways, right? Now, of course, you can preemptively try to throw buttons out to keep you out, but again, it is an actual material weakness that she has. She has ways to compensate it, but it exists, right? Now, I'll talk about something that I made a whole video about this. I'm not going to go into this in too much detail. I knew all of this about Versusia when she launched, right? But I had one misconception in how I evaluated her that led me to believe that she was much more balanced originally than she turned out to actually be, right? And that was that I used to think that Versusia had bad defense, right? Her you know, instant 6XLing out of the corner is a very common thing, right? It's a very common thing that a lot of characters do. It's like sort of the sort of counter to, I think I heard people at Arc World Tour calling this the Grand Blue Zone. Characters with good buttons, a lot of the top tiers especially, will like stand out here and just like kind of stand back and forth and poke at you, and if you hit a button, you die, right? The sort of inherent counter to the Grand Blue Zone that Rising introduced was characters can do this, right? And if you're standing there just kind of like waiting for them to do something, playing reactive, right? Then this just will, you know, Ladiva's is bad, but it's not as bad as Versusia's. This, you know, at that point the defender gets out of the corner, right? And now it's their turn because they're plus on block, right? So this is not insignificant that Versusia is the second worst character in the game at doing this. Again, Vasaraga being the worst. Vasaraga has the worst defense in the game. We can talk about that later. I'm sick and tired of people saying that's not the case. But I think at this point most people have come around on that fact, I think. But yeah, so she's the second worst character in the game at doing that. That matters. However, again, is her defense really bad where, you know, if she just lands like her amazing 2L on you at any point while you're running your offense, you just like go straight to hell? Right? Like, is her defense really that bad when she can do that? And that's not even her best case scenario? Like, no, not really, as it turns out, right? Like, the reward you get when you get these random hits matters a lot. And again, Versusia is very likely to get those hits, right? Is her defense really that bad if she hits you with that insane 2M and like that happens to you? And now here we are again, right? Like, she just outspaces your best button with her best in the game 2M. And then, you know, here you go being murdered again. Does this really look like bad defense to you? So I was wrong about this, right? I was just wrong about this on Versusia, right? This was the main thing kind of holding her back in my head from being an amazing character. As I was like, well, she's got all this crazy shit, but she's got bad defense. Well, she actually she doesn't have great defense, right? Because you know, again, that 6XL thing does matter quite a lot, but like, she actually probably has like pretty top half of the cast defense, right? Like top, you know, like she's up there. She's not quite there with like, I would still say characters like Belial, characters like Catalina, but like, if you really forced me to sit down and name a bunch of characters I thought had better defense than Versusia, I think I would run out pretty quick. She might have some of the best defense in the game still, right? So it's like, well, that was the big weakness, because I viewed her as DLC Vasaraga from the second I watched her trailer. And while I think I am mostly correct about that in just a general way that their game plans tend to play out, but hers is just better and stronger and safer, right? While I was generally correct about that, I think it misled me into being like, well, Vasaraga has bad defense, so she must have bad defense too. And I didn't really critically examine that claim until, you know, several months after she came out. So that would be a glaring weakness that would hold her back, except it just doesn't exist. It's just not real. She doesn't have bad defense. I'm just wrong about that. I was just wrong, right? So her only weakness has become nitpicks like that, right? It's like, well, she's, you know, pretty slow. It doesn't really matter, but she's kind of slow, right? Well, she has a bad 6XL. This is probably the single most material weakness, right? She has a bad instant 6XL, but like, again, it doesn't really matter. Why is her 5U so much faster than Voss's? It is not, actually. I believe it's 1 frame slower. I mean, again, I'm not here to just. I believe this is 1 frame slower than Vossaraga's. I think Voss's is 40 frames. Yeah, it's 1 frame slower than Voss's 5U. Yes, it is. Yeah. So it's not faster, right? But that's not, feels faster because, again, she has many more opportunities to use it safely, right? This character feels better and better the further we go along. So many little things add up. Yeah. So Versusia basically becomes a character who is all strengths, no real weaknesses. The only reason, like, which is why, if someone really wanted to, like, just slam their fist on the table and go, Mr. Streamer, I think Versusia is the best character in the game. I wouldn't disagree, right? The only things, in my opinion, that will make me put a character, like Beatrix, like Grimnir, like Zeta, I'm gonna stick on that one, like maybe Catalina, but Catalina doesn't have what I'm about to talk about, right? But the only things that would make me put characters like those above her is just, it's not so much that Versusia has any weaknesses, it's just that those characters, by and large, have real 50-50s that they put you in, right? They have real, honest-to-God 50-50s that can loop. Beatrix, not quite as much compared to Zeta or Grimnir or something like that. But like, they have real, honest-to-God looping 50-50s in a game that just doesn't have those, right? And Versusia, for how crazy her buttons are and everything like that, she does still have to run like normal Grand Blue offense, right? She has to like walk up and try to throw bait you, or she doesn't have like an amazing throw bait or stuff like that, right? Like, Versusia is very scary when she hits you, right? But the only thing that will make her, in my opinion, not just the best character in the game is that even though by the way, everything she has is plus. I forgot to mention that too in the normals, right? That, like, this thing, let's see, if I make Voss not counter this, right? This is plus, this is plus, this is plus, this is plus, right? This is plus. Everything she has is plus on block, right? So she has some pretty damn good pressure, certainly. But she does still have to play like regular Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising offense without like an exceptional throw bait or like, she has a BC bait, but it's not like incredible, right? So that's not a weakness, by the way, right? That's not a weakness, but it is just like, it's a lack of absurdity that some of the other characters have that she doesn't, right? Now, she's absurd in other ways, but me, personally, I value that idea that, like, if Grimnir or Zeta, like, get a hit on you, the round might just end right then and there, right? Like, at that point, you really are just, a lot of agency is taken out of your hands in a way that is not necessarily true about Versusia, right? Now, Beatrix is different, yes. Beatrix is 50-50, only really matters at low HP, right? She can really 50-50 you for game at, like, 1,500, 2,000 health. I forget how much damage her command grab does, but just Beatrix is, almost has almost very many of the same strengths that Versusia does, except she's also fast, and they gave her a 50-50, right? So, again, I think Beatrix is her own case of just, like, it's kind of similar to, like, we talk about all this good shit Versusia has, and then she has 17k HP and just this fireball for some reason, right? B5U does normal throw damage. Oh, 2,500? Okay. So yeah, all these like crazy things that Versusia has, and then she also just gets like this fireball and 17k health. Beatrix is very similar in my head of just like, she has all this crazy shit, good buttons, not as good as Versusia, but like really quite good buttons. She's fast, she does high damage, she, has a fireball as well, an amazing one, right? And she's got a command grab, and she just absolutely, she has unreactable options that blow you up at a certain point, right? And she has that 50-50, right? She has I mentioned the command grab already, but like, imagine I didn't. And at the end, she has that 50-50, right? So again, I think it's a toss-up. I don't think anyone is like obvious top one in this patch, but I would personally, because of that, I value that quite highly. I would put Versusia like right, like if I had to stratify top tier right now, I would put Versusia in that like second-class citizen, but not in, but way better than it sounds, right? Like, I would not necessarily personally think that Versusia is best character in the game, but she's fucking insane, right? This character is really strong. What weaknesses would you give her without gutting her? I think I liked this character a lot when I thought she had bad defense. I would give her bad defense. Now, I don't think that I want to lower any of the rewards on Versusia's hits, right? I think this is what makes her Versusia. This is what makes her fun to play. I'm usually not a fan of lowering reward. It's just not the balanced philosophy that I myself subscribe to quite often, right? I think it's fun to hit someone as Versusia and just fucking do that to them, right? I would like if the thing that seems weird to me is that I think Versusia probably should have bad buttons, right? Like this guy, right? This guy has bad buttons, and it means he has bad defense, right? His far L is actually quite nice, but it's a strictly worse version of Versusia's, but it's still quite nice, right? Because Versusia's is fucking ridiculous. So I would like for her to actually have bad buttons. What if, for example, what if this genuinely was a +6 on hit, right? You make this +6 on hit and keep the fact that it can't cancel, right? So Versusia actually gets like nothing off her 2L, except for another 2L, right? If she wants to then convert, right, that makes it a lot worse. She has to go like, you know, like this into, I don't know, like, does it even go into you and Itia? No, it doesn't, right? Yeah, so what if she just actually didn't get any reward, basically, off her 2L, unless she wanted to do, like, this? In which case, you know, I'm totally fine with characters being able to do that to get, like, this is very, very expensive to actually get, she needs Celestial Domain? Yeah, true, it would... Oh, no, it doesn't link. This doesn't link off that, yeah. That'd be fair. This does not have enough hits done to combo into this, right? So again, I think I'm okay with that. Honestly, I might, like, that might be, I'm not a big fan of, like, shooting characters in the head. Literally, that one line, I think, would make her a lot worse. I think she would still be quite good, because she found, like, you know, if she had Domain, and she found, like, a 2M or something, right? Then she's getting, like, a pretty good combo. But that would, and she has to start hitting with 5L, right? And maybe at that point, we keep 5L, you know, as it is, but then it really becomes, you know, a matter of, like, do I want to use my pretty shitty, low risk button, or do I want to use the 7 frame button to mash out with on defense? Now, this thing is still good, right? But honestly, just that. Making this +6, like, this will be one of the most impactful, she'll only get Lariat or Nimbus, I think? Yeah, would she get heavy Lariats? Okay, so yeah, if she had stock, she could do, I guess if she had stock, she could do stuff like this still, right? Which is, I mean, that's like I'm okay with that. I mean, probably could do something a little better. Like, you know, I'm okay with that as a combo, personally. She could do, like, the jumping H into the thing, right? But again, this would require her to have Celestial Dominion on, right? So you could do, like, probably this, that's, right? Yeah. Right? So, I mean, that, to me, that's fine, that's fair. She has good corner carry and all that, and, like, you know, still way worse. So, unironically, I think Versusia is a character that is very close to being totally fine, actually. If you just make this +6 and keep the fact that it cannot, and by the way, that does mean if she gets counter hit to be +8, right? So on counter hits 2L, right? She can do that. On counter hit, she would still be able to do this, right? She would still be able to do her, oh, not that, but you know, she can land 2-3-6U. Is that this? What's 2-3-6U? Oh, the pillar? Oh, she can land. Oh, you're saying off this? You're saying she can do like land 2-3-6U off the Nimbus follow up? Is that what you're saying? Like she would get land 5H. Oh, I see. Into the U pillar. You're saying like this. Would you land like hold on. Ah, I see. Okay, that into U pillar. Gotcha. Hold on, I'm ass. Don't talk to me. I'm not a Versusia player. I'm pure ass. Right. Yeah. Okay, and so you get something pretty nice off that, right? You get something pretty nice off that still. You probably like extend that into an auto combo and stuff like that. But still, right? Like that would require her to either get a counter hit or have Celestial Dominion to combo off this, and the combo would still be like worse than what she used to get, right? It would like so I'm probably okay with that, right? Like that as a starting point. Now maybe it turns out she's like still too good. Even like maybe this isn't as big of a nerf as I think it is, right? And we need to do more to her. But like I'm not the guy who's like, let's shoot this character that I don't like fight. I don't even mind fighting her really. Like let's shoot this character I don't like fighting in the head. That's not me, right? I think that would already be a very material nerf to her defense. Because the weakness I want to give Versusia is I want her to actually have bad defense. So if you get her to the corner, if you go through that onslaught of good buttons and everything like that, then you actually just win, right? Or it's much easier for you to win, right? That to me, that would be my like ideal, my ideal change to Versusia was give her bad defense for real, right? And how do we do that? I think the most elegant way to do that at start is make that thing +6 on it, right? On other end, Mr. Streamer, that combo isn't corner to corner off a 2L, yeah. Right? Maybe it could be. I'm kind of curious to see if I can actually do something like that's not horrible here. You probably would like go what? You walk up to him in close H, probably, right? Does that sound about right? We could go bonk, this, dash up, close H, and then that or something, right? So I mean, that is still like that's good mid screen still, right? But it's you know that's a hard hit confirm. That's a difficult thing to go 2L into Nimbus right away like that, right? And it requires her to have stock up, right? I'm much more okay with this. She only gets something good off 2L if she has stock or if she gets a counter hit. And even like with the stock up, again, this is not the world's easiest hit confirm to do that, right? That's not, I mean, she can go probably 2L, right? Yeah, so it wouldn't be that bad, right? She probably could do that, right? So I guess the hit confirm part is sort of moot, right? But like still, right? You go 2L, and then do this. But I'm more okay with that as a starting point, right? If we wanted to go, you might be able to corner swap with like Nimbus. True. If I wanted to go a little bit, if we wanted to go a little bit further, right, to give her actually bad defense, make this light attack level, right? Keep this plus on block, keep it 7 frames, make it light attack level. So that if you 6XL in on her and she does this, you clash, right? That'll be like the next step, right? That'd be the next step. If it turns out that this is not enough of a nerf, that she needs like to do a combo like this instead of like the normal stuff, the next step will be make this light attack level, right? So then again, if I just 6XL in on her and she does this, I don't die for it, right? I would imagine that if we do both of those things, Versusia would still be good, but I don't think she'd be nearly as like just overwhelming as she is right now. Because again, she would keep all of her strengths, but she would have a real material weakness to her. Because at this point, you have to realize that also compounds with her 6XL being so bad, right? So if this becomes a riskier button, this becomes a lower reward button, and she can't do this spacing becomes actually pretty scary for her, right? Like her just like sticking out like a far M or something here becomes like, she has to play defense like the rest of the video game, if anything, a little bit worse than the rest of the video game. Now, she gets higher reward off of it, but it's a much higher risk situation for her than it would be for most of the cast. If those two things were done, I wager, I think lowering her 2L reward also just makes her so much less frustrating. Yeah, I think it's a good, I would argue this is probably good, obviously it's my idea, so I'm biased, but I would argue this is good design in many ways, right? It makes her more balanced and less annoying, I think, right? So, you know, if we want to go kind of light, test the waters, just make this +6 on hits, +8 on counter hit. If we want to go a little harder, do that and make this light attack level. I don't think you need to do anything more than that. I think that makes Versusia probably, I mean, she probably drops down closer to where I thought she was on release, honestly, right? Like, she's either like a low high tier, probably, or a high mid tier. That might sound crazy, by the way. They were just like, what? Like, how could that make that much of a difference with all the crazy shit we talked about, right? But again, it's a risk-reward equation. Especially Versusia. The reason Versusia is so good is nothing unique. She's not doing anything special, right? It's just her risk is so low and her reward is so high. So, if we just turn that down, if we make her risk higher and her reward lower, that kind of is all you have to do, right? Versusia is not doing anything particularly game-breaking besides just hit really hard and not get hit that often. Right? She wins too many interactions, and she doesn't, and she wins way too hard when she wins them. So all we have to do is make it so she wins fewer interactions, right? And gets less when she wins them, and boom. Now again, I don't think I want to lower her reward off, like, if she gets like a 5L, if she gets like a close H, right? Like, you want the character to be fun. So like when she gets a good hit, or even like a, you know, relatively okay hit in 5L like this, I want her to kill you. I think that makes her unique, right? But the 2L, I know I said I don't like removing reward, and I'm removing the reward on 2L, right? But 2L is a little too egregious, right? Like again, you'll recall that I said this is maybe the best 5L in the game. This is maybe the best 2M in the game. This is just the best 2L in the game, bar none, right? Of all of her buttons, this is the stupidest one, I would wager. I would say it's not even 5L. Now again, it's enabled by how good 5L is, but like, this to me, actually, I think is her best button. So this is the one that I would want to touch the hardest, is that 2L, right? But yeah, that is, so I remember when I said at the beginning, I don't think it's going to be a very long video, and then I spent 55 minutes talking about this. Oops. But yeah, I think this is, it sort of ended up being not just like a, you know, a what makes Versusia strong video, but kind of a general idea of what I think makes characters strong in this game from like a first principles perspective, right? I need the stanky leg attack to be more punishable. I'm okay. I'm okay. I think I don't want to do anything more. Oh no, wait. You're talking about this, presumably? Or no, this? Is this the stanky leg? I'm not sure. I'm okay with just 2L and 5L getting touched, and we can look from there, right? But yeah, I hope this, you know, this made a little bit of sense. Some people, Versusia, I think, is a character that, while pretty popular, is not super well understood, especially at, again, a lot of the intermediates or level players, stuff like that. I've seen people asking, like, you know, why is Versusia so good? Like, what makes her so strong? Etc., right? I made her good because she's the versus team's OC, do not steal. Yep, exactly. I'm okay with her being good. I love a good big body, right? I love a strong big body, and she does count, but maybe a little lower. Now, of course, obviously, I'm not, like, singling Versusia out here, right? We can certainly, if we're nerfing Versusia, we should definitely nerf Beatrix, we should nerf Grimnir, we should nerf Zeta, we should nerf Catalina, we should nerf, in my opinion, these are the two more controversial top tiers, I think, but we should nerf Soares, we should nerf Belial. I think both of those are like, you know, all those characters, if Versusia's getting touched, those guys need to go as well, right? But, you know, talking about Versusia, that's sort of my thoughts on it.